Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Up today we have Silver Skull's Space Marine chapter. Their armour is predominantly silver, with contrasting black in the pauldrons or shoulder pads. So here you can see we've primed it with Leadbelcher. If you don't have access to Leadbelcher, you can always do either Chaos Black or Mechanica Standard Grey and brush on 2 thin coats of Leadbelcher. You tin your base paints and you'll get the similar effect. So first up is a shade of Nuln oil all over the armour. Be sure to shake your paints or your shades thoroughly. If you ever find that your finished miniature has a slightly glossy sheen to it when you're using shades, probably means that you haven't shaken it enough. So here we're just working it into all the details, make sure you don't allow for any excessive pooling. Now that the Nuln oil is dried, we're going to grab our large dry brush and some Runefang Steel, and we're going to dry brush the entire miniature, focusing on all the raised areas. Now that the Runefang Steel dry brush is completed, next up is the Abaddon Black, which we're going to be applying with a medium and a small layer brush. And we're going to be painting this onto the shoulder pads, one of the knee pads, the hand scanner that he has, and the casing on his bolt rifle. There's also the, I don't know what is it, an undersuit I suppose, to the exposed pieces on his armour. The Abaddon Black is definitely going to be the most time consuming section of this colour scheme. Here you can see the finished black. It took 2 tin coats on the shoulder pads and the casing and the rifle, and 1 coat in the under armour sections. So next up now we just start picking out some of the details. So here I have Mephiston red on a small layer brush, and we're just going to use it to base coat the wax on the purity seal that he has hanging from his waist here. I used the Mephiston red on the wax and the purity seal because I'll be using Spiritstone red technical paint for his eyes and the screen of his little scanner. If you don't have the technical paint, you can use the Mephiston red on his eyes and his scanner as well. So up next we're staying with this small layer brush, and we're taking Zandri Dust, and we're going to be painting this on the purity seals. The little emblem on his rifle. And his chest eagle emblem here. Now that we've finished the Zandri Dust, next up is the final base paint, and that's Rhinox Hide. We're going to be painting on the pouches on his back. Next up is an application of Seraphim Sepia. Here I'm using a medium layer brush, so I'll have a bit more control over my regular shade brush. I'm going to be applying this on top of any of the Zandri Dust areas. Make sure you work it into all the recesses and avoid excessive pooling. While the Seraphim Sepia is drying, we're going to move on to some optional highlights. We're going to go with Bloodreaver flesh over the Rhinox Hide pouches, just along the edges, just to give it that extra little touch of detail. So use the side of the brush. Here we're going in with Evil Sun Scarlet over the Mephiston red, just trying to pick out the edges again. I wouldn't be too worried about the purity seal on this miniature, as it's kind of quite obscured where it's positioned. More often than not, they're a lot easier to get to. Next up we have Eshin Grey, which are going to be put over the Abaddon black. This is kind of a very optional step, so it's almost like overbrushing. There's very little paint on the brush, and we're just trying to pick out the raised sections of the undersuit. Work with the detail. You can also use the Eshin Grey to highlight some sections on the bolt rifle, on the black area. Just again picking out any edges that you can. Use the side of the brush and run it along any sharp edges. While the Seraphim Sepia continues to dry, we're going to move on to the eyes, the Spritstone red. All the gemstone paints that Citadel sell are always supposed to be used over a bright metallic. I'm also going to put some in here, and I'll just do the other eye off camera, as it's going to be a bit more difficult to keep in focus. Now that the shade is dry, we can move on to the final stage before cleaning up the base, and that's a dry brush of Screaming Skull over all the shaded areas, the Seraphim Sepia shaded areas. Here we're using the smallest the smallest dry brush that I have. We're trying to limit how much, or not touch the armour at all if we can, just as gently as you can. Build up more layers with multiple passes rather than trying to go too heavy. And don't forget to do the emblem on his bolt rifle. I really like this muted colour scheme. I think the bone colours on the eagles look a lot better than the gold. And I think the black contrasts nicely with the metallics. As always, if you enjoyed anything in this tutorial, please consider giving the video a like. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.